Okay, so imagine this. You inherit a box full of these old diaries, and then somebody reaches out to you with a cryptic video message.
Oh, wow.
And to top it all off, there's a one-way ticket to Siberia waiting for you.
Ah.
That's the kind of tangled family mystery that we're diving into today.
It's interesting because it's not like a neat archive, right? It's these scattered fragments, diary entries or things whispered online, memories fading with time. It's like trying to put together a family portrait, but each shard is from a different moment.
Absolutely. So to guide you through this whole thing, let's introduce the people at the heart of it all. We've got Ajna, a Siberian artist who's trying to make sense of her family's past. We meet her on Olkan Island as she's caring for her dying father. And his deathbed is only the beginning of uncovering this really complex family history.
And then there's Sophia, who lives all the way in Belgium. She's an anthropologist, and her specialty, get this, is Siberian shamanism. But it's also personal for her. She's grieving her mother, Stella, when, bam, life-altering discovery. She finds a photograph that suggests her father could be one of two men.
Okay.
Igor Argonov, who is a Russian museum director, or a total stranger.
Whoa. Okay, so hold on, because this is where things start to get really interesting. The threads start connecting.
Yeah.
Olkan Island, the place where Oyuna is.
Right.
Igor actually knew Stella back when he was touring Europe with a Soviet folk troupe.
Wow.
And guess where that troupe stopped? Olkan Island.
Oh, wow.
It's like more than just a place. It's practically a character in this story.
The sources describe it as this really remote, almost mystical place, steeped in history and tradition. And it seems like the more we dig into these sources, the more we see that Olkan Island is woven into the very fabric of these families' lives.
Like this magnet that's drawing everyone in.
Yeah.
Okay, so ready to really dive into part one.
Let's do it.
We're calling this setting the stage. Lives intertwined. Because that's what this is all about. It's about these connections that stretch across continents and generations. So remember Ajuna, who's on Olkan Island with her dying father?
Right.
Well, we learned that she and her brother Dashi don't exactly get along.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, it seems like he left their father's side kind of abruptly. And to make this whole family dynamic even more complicated, there's a third sibling that we haven't even met yet.
Okay.
Michael.
Years
ago, Ajuna made this really difficult decision to place him for adoption.
Wow.
And it's kind of striking to see how, even though they're miles apart, these characters are all connected by this really profound sense of loss and this deep yearning to understand their past.
Yeah, each of them are trying to find something, right? Ajuna is trying to, understand her family as she says goodbye to her father.
Right.
Sophia's on this quest to uncover the truth about this father she never knew. And then Michael's out in the world trying to find his place, totally unaware of these family secrets that are swirling around him.
Yeah, they're each holding a piece of the same puzzle.
Right.
But none of them have that complete picture.
Yeah.
And within this really intricate family saga, this curious symbol pops up more than once. The sacral arch.
The sacral arch.
Yeah. And it's interesting how this motif appears in the most unexpected of places. It's almost like this whisper from the past.
Like where?
So you find it in descriptions of Olkan Island itself.
Okay.
Like this natural archway that has all this local lore around it. But it's also in Michael's art.
Really?
He's a video artist.
Okay.
And the sacral arch appears as this recurring image. And now he doesn't know anything about his birth family. So it just makes you wonder, are there these subconscious connections that we have?
Yeah.
Like, how much of who we are is shaped by this past that we don't even know about?
It's like this subconscious link between Michael and his heritage, even though he has no idea about it. That's the power of the past, though, isn't it? It leaves these echoes, these whispers. We might not recognize them, but they're there shaping our lives in all these subtle ways.
It's almost as if those echoes from the past can carry on through generations. Right?
Absolutely.
And in this case, we're dealing with a past that's steeped in tradition, but also marked by a lot of upheaval. So in part two of our deep dive, we're going even deeper into the Dandarov family history. And this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're calling this part Unearthing the Past, Secrets and Lies.
Yeah.
Because we're about to uncover some pretty heavy stuff that's been kept hidden for a long time.
Wow.
What's so fascinating here is how the sources really highlight this deep connection that the Dandarovs have to shamanism.
Right, shamanism.
For centuries, this spiritual practice has been such a big part of Siberian culture.
It's like this whole belief system where the natural world isn't just something to observe. It's something to connect with. It's a living, breathing entity to commune with.
Yeah, but under Soviet rule, these traditions face some pretty serious challenges, right?
Yeah. The Soviet regime, with its whole emphasis on atheism and materialism, saw shamanism as a threat, something to be suppressed or even eradicated.
That's wild. It's like trying to erase something that's been a part of the land for centuries.
Mm.
And it sounds like Arjuna's grandfather, who was a practicing shaman, he felt that firsthand.
It seems like it. The sources mention his arrest and imprisonment in Perm 36, one of the gulags.
It just makes you think about the human cost of these ideological clashes.
It does. The sources hint at this deep-seated trauma within the Dandara family passed down like a scar on their collective memory.
So to really understand the magnitude of that, don't we kind of have to zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture of what shamanism means in Siberian culture?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about like a set of rituals or beliefs. It's about an entire way of life, a connection to the land and to the ancestors.
So tell me more about that. What are we talking about here?
Well, the sources mention rituals, offerings to spirits, and this deep reverence for the natural world. Imagine a worldview where like mountains, rivers, the air you breathe, it's all infused with spirits.
Wow.
And meaning. It's fundamentally different from that secular materialistic mindset that was pushed during the Soviet era. It's no wonder there was this huge clash of worldviews.
So you got these external forces, right? The political persecution, the cultural suppression, this complete disruption of their way of life. But you mentioned the trauma, too, so it sounds like there was some inner turmoil happening within the Dandarov family as well.
Yeah, you're right about that. The sources suggest that Arjuna really struggles with her own personal connection to shamanism.
Really?
Yeah, it's like she's trying to reconcile her family's past with the present. Meanwhile, her brother Dashi seems to have totally rejected these traditions.
Interesting. So they're each grappling with their heritage in very different ways.
Exactly, and it makes you think, how much of who we are is shaped by these external forces and how much is our own choice? How much of our family history are we carrying with us, even if we don't realize it?
That's a great question. And speaking of paths in part 3, we're going to follow the very different journeys these characters take as they each search for answers. And as Sophia's going down this path, it's like you can really feel that emotional weight, you know?
It's palpable. We're not just talking about like dates on a timeline.
Right.
These are real people with real emotions dealing with loss and love and trying to figure out where they belong.
And those journeys, as we're going to see, lead to some pretty powerful confrontations and maybe even some healing. We're calling this part confrontation and reconciliation because that's what this all comes down to. So remember how Arjuna and Sophia were both drawn to Olkan Island? Well, the sources hint that Dashi actually arranges a meeting between them.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine the tension in the air?
Oh, yeah.
These two women, bound by this shared history, finally coming face to face on this remote island.
And they're both carrying so much baggage, right? Arjuna's dealing with her father's death, the issues with Dashi, the weight of giving up Michael for adoption. And then you've got Sophia, who's still trying to process this whole thing about her father and uncover her mother's past. It's like they're both searching for solid ground.
Yeah. So do they find it? Do they connect?
Well, this is where the sources get really interesting, but also kind of frustrating.
How so?
They don't give us every single detail about the meeting, just hints and whispers. Like we're left to imagine what was said, the emotions, the questions, the possibility of forgiveness. Did they find comfort in their shared grief, or did it just cause more pain?
Wow. So it's like we're getting this outline of the story, but we have to fill in the rest ourselves. What do you think happened when they met?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It really makes you think. And even though we might never know all the details of what happened on that island, one thing is for sure, the story doesn't end there. This leads us to part 4 of our deep dive, which is all about what comes next. It's a time for reflection, resilience, and some unexpected new beginnings.
I like it.
We're calling it The Cycle Continues Finding Hope in Unexpected Places, because that's what this part is all about.
Okay.
This is where we really start to see just how much the past can shape the future. So remember Dashi, Arjuna's brother?
Yeah.
He makes a pretty big decision. He's moving to Siberia.
Wow.
It's like confronting his family's past has opened up this whole new future for him, one that's rooted in his Siberian heritage. And then there's Michael, Arjuna's son. He's still out in the world creating art, exploring identity, belonging, without ever knowing the truth about his own family history. It makes you wonder, don't you think, how much of our lives is shaped by forces that we don't even realize are there?
It's a powerful thought. It speaks to how interconnected our lives really are, like all these individual stories coming together to form one big human experience.
And the sources leave us with this really powerful image. It's Arjuna standing on the shores of Lake Baikal, reflecting on life and loss and new beginnings. And the ice on the lake is melting.
Symbolic.
Yeah, it represents a new season, a fresh start. It's a powerful reminder that even when we face difficult times, life goes on. And sometimes those profound discoveries that we're searching for aren't found in some dusty old book or on a map.
Right.
They're found by looking inward, by listening to the echoes of our own family stories.
And sometimes it takes a deep dive into those echoes, those fragments of the past, to really understand who we are.
So as you go about your day, maybe take a moment to reflect. What hidden stories might be woven into your own family history? What connections are waiting to be uncovered? This has been The Deep Dive.